I just think that transition is so ultimately awful. It's just like, how do you just go?
Maybe we need a new producer.
Oh, well, I never said we didn't. So don't even, because I'm happy to accept. Somebody wants to come on here and produce applications. This, please.
But I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
See, I don't know. I kind of think it seemed like before the new company took over StreamYard, it seemed like there was a better transition. I don't know. Am I just making that up in my head?
I don't know. Maybe there's a fade or something in there we just haven't selected.
Well, I mean, it very well could be. It very well could be. So what's up with you today, Michael?
Well, not too much. I will say one thing here in a minute, but I want to ask you a question first. So no podcast last week because we had Liberty, Oklahoma.
Correct.
How do you think that went? I mean, I learned a ton of stuff that, I mean, I'm pretty decently active, and I learned a ton of stuff that I just never even thought of.
Well, that's so nice. Well, I had really great feedback. I mean, really good feedback. Everybody said the way, I put the program together was good. And, the way Kendra and I had worked it, I mean, people seemed to enjoy it, and especially the Friday, but then Saturday morning, we had the legislators come and there was a panel, and I think everybody got a lot out of that. I was kind of surprised. They did such a great job, those legislators, and that the audience had such great questions. And I just kept going, wow, this is good. I was up there going, okay. Well, so I was happy. I think the people that came were happy. I never heard anybody say anything bad, but then do you? I don't know. So I just heard nice things, and we got a nice write-up in the paper, and it was a really nice thing. The girl who wrote the article came to the conference, and she came on Saturday to see the legislative panel, and we had this great conversation. She was a real interesting person, and I enjoyed meeting her. So that was really nice. So there were just a lot of, nice things. I will say I'm like so glad it's over. Jules is on this morning. Good morning, friends.
Friday was a pretty long day for you, especially.
Yeah, it was a long day, but that if I'm going to say this, if you have not seen the Pike Off OTA documentary, and you somehow in your head you're thinking, oh, OTA, they're not so bad, they do turnpikes. No. No. You need to go to Pike Off OTA's website, and on the front page of the website, they now have the documentary. You need to go see that. You really do need to watch it. It's long. I'm not going to tell you it's not, but you really need to go watch it, because it's like you and me talk all the time, Michael, and all of the guests that we have on, and we say all the time, our government is so broken. If it were a car, it would just be sitting getting.
Uh-oh. Jenny freeze there for a second? I think so. Let's give her a second here to come in. Maybe. But I unless she takes herself out, I really enjoyed that Liberty conference. I learned a ton from Andrew Spino, which Andrew actually helped me with my campaign when I ran for school board, but I learned so much more that I wish I would have known. And then I also really appreciated Trenton, who we had on the podcast before. He was really talking about how he activates all his people and what they do, and it was so good and interesting. I just really, really enjoyed that. I'm glad Jenny and Kendra put that conference together. I think it was fantastic. That was the first one. Hopefully we continue to have those, and they just get better and better. The information that was there, I haven't seen a place where it's all together like that. in one place. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens here with Jenny, but we'll go ahead and bring Kayla in here. And I know she's got a presentation also.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Kayla. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you. I worried for a second because I thought, uh-oh, I hope this isn't me. I saw her screen freeze. I thought, oh dear. But
well, from time to time, Jenny has internet issues out there on the farm.
Yeah, she's not too far from me, and satellite is good until it's not. So
yeah. So how are you?
I am doing great. I was so sad that I missed the conference. My husband had a big birthday. We celebrate the 5s and the 0s, and he had a 0. So we were out of town for the week and didn't get back till Friday. So
yeah, great. Well, looks like
hi,
Jenny's loaded back in there.
Just all of a sudden, my internet went down.
Well, I just brought Kayla on. I just talked a little bit more about the Liberty Conference, and I just said, Jenny, I for the first time, I mean, that's probably a pretty good learning experience, but I can't wait to see as that thing continues to go on and grow and get bigger and better.
Well, you bring me 5 more board members. It just, I mean, many hands make light work. And I think, we need a little light work on that one. So anybody who's interested in helping me out with that, just see me and we'll get going with it now. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple of things, like you said, Spino, I thought he did a great job.
Yeah.
And I think people didn't understand that. I think he got more questions than most of anybody else. So, except maybe Katie.
The first one is always hard because you're trying to navigate it, but then the second one always seems to be so much better. Not necessarily in the content. The content was good, but just how things flow, your comfortability level. I know when we do things for the second time, it's like, okay, I've got this. I've already done this before. So,
yeah, I mean, the learning curve is steep. Okay, so you have some stuff that you want to talk about this morning that I think
segued perfectly.
Super helpful.
Yes, you segued perfectly without even planning it, because knowledge is key. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we're going to look at are some of the bills. And I think people get overwhelmed because, like, I just have to know everything. I have to know everything. There was almost 6,000 bills filed. You're not going to tell me that every single legislator knows every word of those 6,000 bills. They rely on their colleagues to have expertise on their committees and what they're supposed to be doing, and rely on them to go through it and then educate others. And so some of the things that we're going to go through this morning is just giving people the power to have the knowledge. Knowledge is where you find the information. So looking up the websites to tag certain bills, look up different information, make sure you know what's on the ballot. You're not required to know everything, because if you think you are, you're going to overwhelm yourself before you even start. So just knowing where to go, look up this information when you need updates, or tagging yourself for updates. So that's what we're going to look at this morning.
Okay, this will crack you up.
Yeah, and I'll show people where to look this up, because it is important that you know.
All right, do you want to start?
Yeah, the first thing that I want to start in with is the voter portal. I'm hoping that a lot of people are familiar with this, but I find out when talking to people, they'll ask me, hey, what's on the ballot? What district do I vote in? Where do I vote? A lot of this information is found in one place, and it's on the voter portal. So we're going to start here. And if you go to OK Voter Portal, you can actually just pull up Google and just type in OK Voter Portal, and it will pull this up so you can click on this website. You need 3 pieces of information. You need your last name and your first name. And I guess I am going to share my birth date publicly. So it is coming up. So just remember that I like choose. So let's see. All right. Oh, there's an error. Well, that's not going to help us out very much. Okay, let's go here, because I want people to see what they can pull up on here. And it's such a wealth of information. Okay. So on the voter portal, the biggest thing is to verify your information. This is your voter ID card. This is the precinct that you're in. It gives what you're affiliated, how you've registered. But these are the big things that we want to look at. So if you have people that move and like, I don't know how to update my information, go here. You can change your address. There's 2 different links, whether you change your address in the same county or you go to a different county. If you have a PO box that you would rather have things go to a PO box, we've gotten this call quite a bit. And it's, oh my gosh, I lost my card. What do I do?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Super easy. You go to this website. There is a little bit of information that you have to have, but here's the cheat for this. One of the things, or that's going to ask you for 3 things: your driver's license, the last 4 of your social, and your voter ID number. Well, if you've lost your card, how do you know your voter ID number? Easy peasy. Easy peasy.
That's a good point.
It's right here. So if you do it online, just go up here and you can do, you'll just do the click and you'll just copy it. Wow, am I doing it right? Oh, I guess I need to highlight it first. But you'll copy it. And then when you go here to do your change request, you just pop it right here. So you'll be able to put this in and it'll give you your information and you can fill it out and it will send you your card without having to go do a lot of other things. The other thing that it's going to take me back home that's really important to see is we get calls on this at the county about people have no idea where to go vote. I've moved into this area. I don't know where to vote. So it tells you, if you go down here to the bottom, it tells you, oh, let me go up here. Your polling. Let me go back to the top because it's easier. You can ask where your polling place is right here. I guess I did go to the right link, but your voter districts, if you go up here, this tells
I know somebody who needs
where
that.
to vote. Yes, and I get text messages from people in different parts of the county or different counties. I have no idea where they vote, but I can tell them where to go to Oklahoma voter portal. As long as they know their last name, their first name, or their date of birth, they can find this information. But another good thing that's good is here's information for the Oklahoma County Election Board. Now, I will save some of the comments for this for a later time, but here's how you find the information to contact them. And then for those of us that are rural, I call it, we're so nice out here that everybody wants a piece of us. So I'm in Edmond School District. I have a Jones address and I actually vote in Jones. However, because of where my house is, I'm actually in Oklahoma City municipality. So I'm all over.
That's ridiculous.
And it is, and it makes it confusing because we just had, there was a bond election in Edmond. Well, it wasn't advertised here because we're in Jones. Well, had I not known to look up this information here, I wouldn't have known that we had an election. So this is really important because it gives you your congressional district, your Senate district, your House district, and then each one of counties in Oklahoma, they have 3 different county commissioner districts. And so it gives you that. But then it also tells you your school district. So if you're wondering why your taxes may be a little bit different than your neighbor that's a couple of blocks down, you could actually be in a different school district, which makes a difference in your taxes. So here's where you find the information here. But the really, really important part is right before an election, just because people know that I'm involved in politics and also at the county, we get calls going, I have no idea what's going to be on the ballots. I go to this website so often.
Or do they say this, Kayla? Do they go, tell me who to vote for?
Yes. And I'm prepared for that too, because I just have a copy and paste and just blast that off. I really get questioned about the judges because with judges, there's no information out there about judges. And so where we really try to educate people, not only in the Oklahoma Federation of Republican Women, but at the county, is know what's on your ballot. You want to be able to go into the poll and have an idea of who you're going to vote for and not go, I had no idea what this was going to be on here. I don't know what I'm voting for. So, or I don't know that this was going to be on here. I haven't looked up a bond. I haven't looked up different issues. So go to your sample ballot because this is specific to you because it's all of your exact information. So I go to this website all the time just to help others. But since I'm in the Edmond School District, if I didn't know this,
so wild.
So who would have known there's going to be an election in April for the Edmond schools? It's on my ballot. And so this is great because you can pull it up. And so when I walk into the poll, I have already seen the ballot. I'm not going to be confused about what's on it because I've already seen it. And they have this generally about 60 days in advance. So nothing's going to be on here for the primaries just yet, but about 60 days before the primaries, excuse me. So after the, after the filing period, you want to get on here and look and know what's going to be on your ballot. So when you go to the polls, you're already familiar with what's going to be on there. So we direct people to this website all the time because there's just so much information. And especially with this upcoming election, I wanted to pull this up because we're starting to see the stuff come through the mail. We're starting to see the media come across the TV. But this election cycle is massive. So one of the things I do at the beginning of each year is I Google what is going to be on the ballot this year. Look at what we've got coming up for 2026. We've got a federal delegation. We've got a U.S. senator coming up. Look at everything we have coming up for the state. I mean, these are big. We've got governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, state treasurer. I don't know if people are aware of everything that's going to be on the ballot. And I don't pull this up for people to go, okay, that's too much. I'm out. I pulled up now so you can go, okay, this is what I need to get educated on, or find my friends who do research like we do, ask them their opinions so I know what to do when I get to the ballot box. But here's another thing, and I call it this little hidden secret and right down here. Again, judges are so crucial.
Oh, wow.
You never hear any information about it. So we know that there's going to be a couple of judges that are on the ballot. I don't know what.
Hey, Kayla, can you hit your, can you
bigger?
make your screen bigger? There you go. Perfect. Oh, that's so much better. Thank you so much.
So I'll go back here. So if you just Google terms of office for whatever year you're looking for, this will come up. It's actually on the Oklahoma government website, but you have to dig to find it. So if you just Google the terms of office for Oklahoma, it should pull this up. But unless you know to look for it, you're not going to know that it's out there. So
I wouldn't. I mean, honestly, I've been involved 17 years. Didn't know that.
Well, and it's a little bit frustrating because we're in a world that is so data driven, but there's so much data, you get buried under it. Where do you look? So having tools like this, it just gives you the knowledge and the power so you can look things up.
I'm actually looking it up right now to get to post the URL in the comments.
Well,
I found it. Oh, no. Hold on. I just found it for 2022. How do you find it for 2026?
Can I do this right here? This is where, can I post this in the
comments?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Can you post it in the comments? Yeah, just copy and paste in the comments. Just put it in and then hit it.
Yeah. But this gives you, so, I don't know that people realize that we have 48 state senators and we have 101 representatives. Who's going to keep up with who is where and who is this? This website is this graph is so good because it helps you get that figured out.
Yeah, I'm going to post that. That is really good. Thank you so much.
Going back down to the judges,
wow.
I don't know. I don't have all of these districts memorized. My brain is too full. So that's where the power of the search comes in. But like we've got District 1 has a judge coming up.
Oh, wow.
District 6, District 9. So this is part of the item, or these are some of the items on our list to research for the county. So we're prepared when it comes to if people start making inquiries, we can give them information of the how some of their rulings have come about, whether they lean left, whether they lean right. A good thing is where you look to see when were they either appointed or when were they elected. And so this will be information that will be available pretty soon. But I just wanted people to be aware of this, because if you're not familiar with what's going to be on the ballot, imagine walking in the primaries and seeing all these people on the ballot. If you're not prepared for that, you're going to stand there in the booth overwhelmed. We don't want people to be overwhelmed.
No, but I want to ask you a question though too. So there have been at least 2 websites that I know of, 2 people that have researched. One of them is Michael Bates in Tulsa with Bates Line. And I think who's the other one that's actually researched judges? And I don't know if Michael's going to or not. I need to check with them and see. But we've got to have somebody who follows these judges, because we've talked about this on the program so many times. I mean, our court system is as broken as the rest of our government is. And part of it is because people go in and it says retain or not, and you just put retain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people don't even think, well, maybe they shouldn't be retained, right? I mean, why is the default always, let's just put them back in? You know what I mean? I mean, some of them are good, some of them are bad. We need to get some information on judges, especially the ones that are going to be on the ballot upcoming in 2026. And we need to do it quickly so people aren't overwhelmed, like you said, by the time they get into the voter booth.
Well, especially for the ones, you want to see what their rulings are, whether they're right leaning, whether they're left leaning, how long they've been in office. I mean, it's good to have knowledge, but at some point in time, if you're 80 and still sitting on the bench, go enjoy your retirement. Like I look at things like that, you know, at some point in time, give it up. And that's not meant to be derogatory.
I know. No, I totally get it. I mean,
if you've been there for 40 years, you know, maybe it is time to pass the baton.
Well, and let me, just to follow up on the fact that you're not trying to be ugly, let me make your point. So one of the things that I've observed that's happened in government as long as I've been interacting in government is this: the longer they're in office, the more they seem to forget that times change and they're still doing the stuff that they've done before. So it's kind of like what happened with me in the state election board, you know, and you say, well, you can't do that. That's not what it, you know, the law isn't that. You have to follow the law. Well, but we've always been doing it like that. Well, but you can't, that's not something you can do. You're required to follow the law while you're in office. And I think people just kind of tend to get, well, this is the way we've always done it. And that's not the way you do it. You do it based on what the law tells you to do, not because you've been doing it for X number of years. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that entrenchment, that's part of this kind of the swamp mentality. People might not even try to be mean about it. It's just they are so used to doing it one way that they don't even think that there might be another way to do it, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So
well,
it's not being mean at all.
No. Well, this is what's coming up this year. So that we've got this link in here, but we can also share it other places. But this is where we need to be doing a bulk of our homework, because these are the folks that are going to be on the ballot. So let's go back over to the voter portal.
That was great information, girl.
The last thing on here that I want people to check is we're very fortunate in Oklahoma. I mean, there's fraud everywhere. Even if it's just a tiny bit, there truly is. That's just the nature of humans. So one of the things that I periodically check is to make sure that this is correct information for me. Okay. I do not do absentee ballots. I want to stand there with my flag pin on. I want to go to the polls. I have never filed for an absentee ballot. So just check this. It's a good check and balance, because if you never have and you see that on there, it's time to do a little bit of research. And then the last tiny thing to touch on is I like to do, this is my gut check and my reality check. I say elections are important, but how important are they? If I'm not showing up to the booth, They're not that important to me. So this gives your voter history where you can click on it and see how many times that you voted, see what elections you've voted on in. Now, sometimes it'll say that there's election and then there's a line there. So there's sometimes that like I've missed an election before. I've been out of town for a school board election. So it'll have a line there because I didn't vote in that election. But this is just good just to check so you can see what your history is.
That's an excellent point.
Little reality check. If it is important to you, you are going to show up. So that's the Oklahoma voter portal.
But before you get off that portal, Kayla, do they have any kind of notification system or anything that you could, go in and sign yourself up for and say, notify me of every election I could vote in? Is there anything like that on there?
Gosh, that is an excellent question. Not that I am aware of, but I'll check on that for you.
I think that'd be a nice feature just to add for people in the future. If they don't have that capability, it'd be nice to just say, send me an email on every election coming up that I can vote in.
Well, and one thing for new voters, when we do the state fair, we take a stack of voter registration cards. And then when we do different community events, we'll take a stack of voter registration cards. But there's certain things that you have to put on there that people are like, I don't know if I want to fill this out and hand this into you, or I don't know if I want to put it in the mail. When we do things on college campuses as well, we point people to this website because you can register to vote on the website. So it's just, you go to the voter portal instead of signing in because you're not going to have any information because you're not registered. Just click here and you fill out the same process that is on the card. So this is what the voter registration application looks like. When we go to community events, this is what we take, but you can actually fill all this information out online and it's processed online. So you don't have to do the manual filling out of it. So this is also great if you're trying to help people to register to vote.
That's totally good information. Phenomenal.
The next thing I want to look at is this is the Oklahoma County website, but there's a couple of tabs that have been added on here that is good for statewide folks. One of the things that we have talked about before is contacting your legislator. And there are different ways on the government website that you can click through. But as we were talking about earlier, it takes like 8 different clicks to get to where you need to go to find your legislator. We don't want people to be frustrated with that. And I know I sometimes get into it. If I'm trying to fill something out, I get 4 or 5 clicks in. I'm like, okay, is this really this important? How many more things do I have to go through? So we want to make it easy for people to contact their legislator. So if you go to okcogop.com, that's the Oklahoma County website, but we have a tab specifically set up to contact your legislators and make it easy. So you click on contact your legislator. You'll go right here. We've got different things that you can track, but if you'll go right here to who are your legislators, you click here and this takes you exactly where you need to go to fill in your information to pull your specific senators. So your House, your state senator, and then your House representative. So if you'll click over here on your address, I guess I'll just put my address in real quick. I've done this before, so it should populate. All right. And then this is the information that is specific to me. So you've got your federal delegation. So we've got our U.S. senators. I'm in House District 5. So Representative Bice is my federal delegation for my House of Representatives. But here's where it gets important. This is my state senator, Adam Pugh. This is my House rep. And then obviously we all share the same governor. But this is where it narrows it down where it's specific to you. Then you can click on it and it will take you to his page where here is his office phone number, and you can click on an email and it'll have you fill out a form. The easiest thing to remember is with emails, it's generally the legislator's first name dot last name. If they're in the House, it's okhouse.gov. If they're in the Senate, it's first name dot last name at oksenate.gov. So
okay. Hey, Kayla. It has your House of Representatives listed as Preston Stinson.
Yes.
Is that right?
Okay, let's see. Well, I should be House District 36. He's 96. Okay, that's interesting. So, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go over here. I didn't even catch that earlier.
I don't know what's going on with my internet today.
Yeah, your video's frozen a couple times.
I know. I just don't get it.
What's the north-south road you live on, Kayla?
Oh, that's interesting. So I am I think I know what House District I'm in. John George is actually my representative because he's House District 36. Preston.
That's why I was like, what's going on?
For a second, I was like, oh my gosh, where do I live? No, I know where I live. I'm pretty sure it's 36. That's what I thought. That is interesting. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, that is very interesting.
Well, but the reason I brought that up, other than the other reason,
That's
but the reason I brought that up is because somebody else told me that just recently said they'd gone to the voter portal and their representative wasn't right.
So the voter portal information should be updated now, but this is from the state website. So I don't know. I'll make a few phone calls on this because this is the House district that I used to be in, but when they redistricted, it bumped me down to 36. I used to be in 96, which is just north of here, and this is Preston's. But I know this is accurate because I've looked up the lines before. I knew I was in 36, but that is very interesting. That's really scary if this is from the state website. I've assigned myself some homework today. So that good catch on that, Jenny. Oh, wow. That is very interesting. So, well, let's go on to the next one now that I'm really curious to why the Oklahoma site is not updated. But I will find out and I'll get you some information so you can update people because I want to know how often this is updated because I've been in 36 for a couple of years now. So good question. All right. Well, let's go over to the tab real quick of the where did we go? Let's go back to the Oklahoma County because I want to share this real quick. So if you want to run for office or people are asking you if you're really involved, say, I'm thinking about running for office, but I don't really know what that entails. Now, this is not going to be a 1 through 10. If you do this, you're going to win the race. This just gives general information so people have an idea. But if you'll go to the Get Involved tab and run for office, it will give you information for how to, now mine's kind of filling out information, what needs to be completed, and just give you information of kind of steps that you need to follow if you want to file to run for office. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this website. I just want people to know that it's available. You can find a lot of this information on the state election board, but it's just easier to go and click on it from the county because it takes you right to the page where you need to go. So, boy, poor Jenny, she can't get her internet working this morning.
It did drop out again. I didn't even notice that, Kayla.
Yes. Well, the next thing that we're going to go to is what she originally we had talked about doing, and it's tracking bills because, again, I'm just going to jump in and go to the bottom and show this. So I'll go back to show you how to get signed in. But when we were talking about bills, look at this. This is what was introduced this session. There's not enough time in the day. Oklahoma starts their legislative session at the beginning of February and they sine die at the end of May. So you've got February, March, April, May. I don't even know if that's enough time to read through all of these. That's why it's so important to know who's on committees, because you're expecting those people to be an expertise in what committees they're on for them to really dive into this legislation, make sure it's appropriate for Oklahoma, know all the ins and outs of the legislation. And then the really important thing is to see how people vote on the legislation. So all of this information is in this website. It kind of makes me do it with a little asterisk now, knowing that our government's website is not up to date, but this is where you can go to get some of the information. So this is a website called, I call it Legiscan. People pronounce it differently. This may just be my Okie accent coming up, but I call it Legiscan. You can go in and you can set up, there's two different types of profiles. You can do a free one or you can do a paid one. I do the free one because I just do this to track certain things. I don't have enough time in the day to track all of the bills. I just look at certain things that affect my job or what I do for a living. I want to know a little bit about education. And then one thing that I've done the last couple of years is track things on transparency, because I want to know what's being filed about what government information is being handed out. There's a bill on the table right now for state and schools to be able to sign non-disclosure forms. And
Yes.
I don't like that. I want to be able to see how my money is being spent. If you're taking a lot of it, I think I should be able to see how it's being spent. So the easiest way to get signed up for this is there's this sign in thing, but when you do you pull up this website, it'll give you, create a username and you'll create a password. And then it'll ask you if you want to do the free version or if you want to do the paid version. This is the free version. So the paid version may be a lot more in depth, but what we're looking at is the free version. And so I'll start out with going to the dashboard. I've already got mine filled out for the year. I fill it out at the beginning of the year. The legislation can be turned in all throughout. People are working on bills all the time. When they read them and pass them, it's going to be during the legislative session, but things are uploaded all the time. So I usually get in here in the middle of January to start looking at what's been submitted, so I can start clicking on what I want to follow. So I'm on my dashboard, and these are some of the bills that I am following. So on the front page, this is only going to show a handful of them, but if you click view all, it shows you all that I'm following. But I follow a lot when it comes to insurance because that's my profession. I do follow some school at the beginning of the year. I look at the overview of the school bills and see which ones that I want to follow. And then I've added a couple in here this year for taxes because a lot of the candidates, especially the gubernatorial candidates, are talking about taxes, especially the ad valorem taxes, the property taxes. So I want to know what's going on with that because that's a big chunk of what goes out of my checking account in December. So I want to know about the taxes. But then again, we talked about the transparency. There's a couple of bills about transparency. So I'm following those too. So on this page is really important to look at, I think, because it tells you which one of the legislators are basically driving the boats. So I like to look at who are some of the top sponsors of the bills, look at what things are going through committees. It gives you who are the most active folks in the legislator. And you can look at these two ways. You can look at they're very active and very involved, or some people are like, good grief, do they want to control everything in my life? I don't look at it that way. I just look at it as these are the folks that are really involved. You want your speaker and those that are the head to be really involved, but you can see the number of bills that are under here. You can see who the sponsors are. This is nice because you can see who are in the different committees, how many bills that they are looking at. It's kind of an overall 30,000 foot view, so you can see what's going on each week in the House and in the Senate. And then this is really interesting because it gives you, based on the information on this website, the most viewed bills in Oklahoma and the most monitored bills. So I like to look at this because this gives you kind of a highlight of what other people think is important and what they are tracking. It may not be what's on my radar, but if a lot of people are tracking this, I may think, I may need to look into this because if this is important to a lot of people, I may just need to see why.
Yeah.
And so this gives you a little bit of information here. And then this is what I scrolled down to the bottom. But I like this because it gives the historical data. Look at the ebb and flow of how things are, and don't get confused because sometimes there's multiple sessions. If a governor will call an additional session, so don't get confused on part of this. Make sure you're looking at the year, but it's easy. You can see how things ebb and flow through the years. So I want to show people how to track bills. So once you get your profile set up, you go over here to the side. So here's the top of the page. You scroll down about halfway down. And this is how I will start out. I'll just type in insurance. And anything that has to do with insurance comes up. So this can be the part that's overwhelming at first, getting in and diving of what you want to track. Because if you'll scroll down here to the bottom, this is just page 1. And if you go to the last page, you saw how long that page was. There are 18 full pages of stuff that has to do with insurance. Now, mind you, anything
just insurance.
So then you have the and this is where I don't want it to be overwhelming, because this is truly the part that takes the longest, because I want to go through here and read the summary of what everything is. And by reading the first few lines, I can tell you, yes, I want to follow it. No, I don't. This is going to be the most consuming part for your time. But once you get this done and follow the bill, you won't see any other of the items on here. So let's go back, and I'm going to I have my dashboard, but I'm going to show you how I went through and picked these out. So, so I started with insurance, and I just go through here and read and see, and I'll just this is one of the ones that I picked to follow. So what you do is you click it, and you'll just go through here and click the ones that you want to follow. And then once you get to the end of the page, scroll back up to the top, go right here, and you'll say, I want to monitor this bill. And then that will put it on your dashboard to follow. But what's really good on this page here is it gives you the summary of it. And it gives you, I like to go over here into the detailed part, because this, you can also pull this from your dashboard, but it gives you the history of the bill, where it is. And then I really look at this part, because this is where I know who to contact if I need to go, hey, buddy, hey, we might need to have a discussion about this, because this is how I feel on my bill.
Yeah.
But it tells you who voted for it, who didn't, is someone abstained from it. So if you go right here, this is our report card. This tells you what happened and and where it is. So it tells you if they voted yes for it, tells you if they voted no for it, if they weren't even there to take the vote. So this is a little bit of their scorecard. So if it's a bill that I'm really interested in and it's moving through the system, I want to know who's for it and who's against it. And if there's some folks that I'm like, wow, really? I wonder why they didn't vote for this. I will sometimes call up to the Capitol and say, hey, I have a question. The senator or the representative voted no on this vote. Would you ask them to send me a quick email to tell me why? I've asked for callbacks before. I know they are very busy, but sometimes it's easier because some of their legislative assistants or their executive assistants can just shoot me back an email based on what they say. So this is a great place to get where you need to communicate. Like on this one, and obviously this one, everybody was in favor for it, but you do find sometimes the ones that are controversial, you'll see quite a bit of red. And I just want to know why. They may know information that I don't, that once I find out, I go, oh, actually this wasn't as good as I thought. Or if I still disagree, then I can nicely give my opinion about why I think that they're not seeing eye to eye with me. So let's go here, and I want to make sure and just practice a little bit. So on the transparency, or actually, let me go back. Let me go to the school bills, because there's a couple on here. One of them that I was tracking for the schools were the teacher pay raises. I mean, education is just so important, and making sure that our teachers are happy. And so some of these can be a little bit of hard to find. So you have to play with a little bit and see, because when I was looking at some of these, it made it a little bit difficult to come up. So I just typed in teacher pay raises. Let's see if the bill that I'm not filing anything. Nope, that did not come up here. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of work. Let me find out which one it was, because I did Google that one. The pay raises is Senate Bill 201. So let's just go here. So let's see, Senate Bill 201. Let's find this one.
Yeah, the pay raises were fun.
Yeah, so this brings up the bill, and it'll bring the updated information on it. And you can actually write notes here. So if you're tracking things, and as it's moving through the steps on some of them, especially on some of the insurance ones, I'll make notes throughout the year. And when it comes closer to once it's come out and they're actually going to take a vote on it, I can go back and look at my notes. And if there's anything before they vote on it, I can just copy and paste my notes and shoot an email off or call to the senator or the House member. But you can actually make notes on here, and it's really great for your information. But this is the one for the teacher pay raises. So it's early in the session, so truly nothing has been sent to the floor, and or not many things have been sent to the floor and voted on yet. But this just tells you where it is in the steps and what chamber that it's in, because some things originate in the Senate, some things originate in the House. So this just helps you to track it. So on the transparency bills, I know we were talking about that. I'm just going to go to my dashboard and see where, let's go to all of them and look at the transparency one. Most of the ones that you see on here are the insurance.
Yeah, I just can't believe there's so much insurance legislation. I wanted to point out, Chris Meredith made a comment on here, and I lost it probably, I don't know, in one of the times I went off. But he had made a comment from LinkedIn. He was watching from LinkedIn and made a comment about the fact that he thought, there it is. Oh, good. I can't see it on mine. That's so interesting. It would be cool to have iPads or some type of data entry computer at those events to register voters so they can go directly to the website instead of using the papers. And I thought that was really a great idea. And I also wanted to point out that Chris Meredith was one of the few candidates that came to the Liberty, Oklahoma conference over the weekend. And he was there almost all day Friday and part of the day on Saturday. So
yes, and Chris is one of the ones that is running for insurance commissioner.
Correct.
Well, the one on the transparency, let me pull what it is that I looked up on here. So it was the one for the non-disclosure. So I'll just pull it up on here just to save time. But yeah, this one kind of, when I was looking through the bills, this one just kind of threw me. This is a Senate bill. It's originating in the Senate. But I thought, why on earth would you sign a non-disclosure about signing different contracts? And so you can read through the bills. If you have the specific bill number, you can put it here. But this gives you the latest text, because what happens is sometimes they'll send it out to committee. They need to change the rules or change the verbiage on it. So they'll kick it back. A lot of the times it takes a couple of days to update, but the new updated information of the bill will be put on here. So you always want to look to see if the amended version has been, because that's the latest information. But this was the one about the non-disclosures. And I haven't gone in and read the amended one, but this is the one that I was looking at for it prohibits the government entities from using non-disclosure agreements. So let's go back and look.
And whose bill was that?
So this one right here is by Senator Daniels, and I'll show you how to look. You can go to this tab right here, Jenny, and it will show you the sponsors of the bill. And what's nice is sometimes this page is half a page long, but then sometimes you just have a couple of sponsors. But once you put in a bill number, this is all the information that you can look up. And sponsors is a real big one up here, because you can see how many of them have put their name on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one came from Senator Daniels, and in the House, Mr. LePeck. So is there anything specifically that you want to research or look up? The bills real quick, the bills that we're looking at for insurance is we're looking at the ones that have to do with like excess premium, looking to see if there's anything that can be done on looking at what the profits are for each of them. Oklahoma is a use and file state, which means that the carriers file what they need to file and they start using it. It's a gentleman's agreement to tell the state what has been filed. There's a couple of bills that have to deal with changing.
Okay, so wait, go back because I didn't quite understand that one.
Okay, so there are states where the insurance companies file what their rate increases are with the Department of Insurance, They review it and they approve or disapprove the rate increase.
Okay.
Well, Oklahoma is a use and file, which means that they file it, but they can start the rate increases immediately. There's no approval needed. And so there are a couple of bills that we're watching that has to do with it has to be approved before it moves forward. There's a bill on there that limiting the amount that it can increase at each time. There's a bill that we're watching that the information that's collected to do insurance quotes or to change the rating system, if you've got a ticket or how many claims can be applied. There's a bill that's looking at the look back period. So with insurance, once you put in your information to run a quote, insurance companies will look back over your loss history over a certain period of time. With the homeowners, they look at how many times you filed a claim, how much has been paid out if a claim has been filed. With auto insurance, they'll look at the number of collision claims, the number of comp claims, if there's been towing claims. And they also look at your MVR report, which is your motor vehicle report. And there's a bill going back, or there's a bill that's addressing how far the carrier can look back. So the look back period, depending on the carrier, it's anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And there's also a bill on here that has to do with, I know, and I cannot remember the attorney firm that I was watching, but they did an episode on a podcast that said insurance companies were starting to work with municipalities to pull like the flock cameras. And if you were driving 90 miles an hour down to 30, grab that tag number. I don't know where we stand on that. I am just starting to research that. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of things that go on in the background, but I don't know if the insurance, particularly at this time, has the capability or the manpower to go back and change all the little individual rates based on that. However, information is absolutely accessible, and I'm sure at a point in time that could absolutely happen. So knowing that there's a bill to address that, there may be things going on behind the scenes that I'm not privy to, that it may already be happening. So I am definitely watching that bill to see what insurance carriers access they have to data. Are they working with municipalities? Are the cities making money off of selling this data? I mean, there's just so much information that we have to look into. And so those are part of the bills that I'm tracking. I don't take a really deep dive until about mid-session, because some of these bills, and I say this because I truly appreciate the work that all of our legislators do, but some of these bills are filed to, for lack of better words, play the game. If you have some constituents that are like, I really need you to do something on this, just because they draft something and file it, it may not even get past the desk. So you've got to weed through a little bit of the paperwork. And so I don't do a true deep dive until about mid-session, because I want to know if some of these bills don't even get past the first phase, then I just need to take them off my radar and not worry about doing a deep dive to truly memorize everything that's in it, because if it's not even going to get off somebody's desk, then I've wasted precious time that I should be spending on another bill. So about mid-April, I will really dive in and see where the bills are, because if it's something that's going to affect my industry and it's looking like it's either going to be a real positive or a real negative, I'll dive in and start talking to the legislators that are either for or against it to provide my opinion and just my expertise, because it's been my industry for so long, of why I think they should or should not pass it. So that's a lot of words.
Maybe Jenny's frozen again.
She's like, that's it. I'm just done. That's too much.
Well, good for you, Kayla. What's your feedback, Kayla, usually when you contact those guys? I mean, are they pretty receptive? Are they like, oh, yeah, thanks, or, So
I will tell you that I have a really good relationship with a lot of the people that I work with, but it's because that I'm intentional of the good relationships. I get told sometimes that I am not a very strong-willed person, or I need to grow a backbone. I can tell you, if I need to be mean, I can. I just don't prefer to be that way, because it doesn't move the needle if I need something done. So there have been times that I've had to have hard conversations, but I do them in a polite and respectful manner. So I feel like I get a little bit more done than sometimes folks that call up and be like, listen here, you jackwagon, I need you. That's not going to get very far. And I mean, that's just human nature. If somebody calls you up and immediately just starts I mean, I get, as the county chair, I will tell you, I get a lot of feedback. A lot of it is great, but there's just some people that I'm not going to make happy. I can tell them, hey, guess what? I'm going to give you $1 million, but you're going to have to get them in hundreds. I'm a bad person because I didn't give it to them in 20s. I mean, that's just life. So there's going to be people that you can't please. But if you're not having respectful conversations, if you send an hateful email, it's probably not going to get very far, because if they have 100 emails to go through that day and they open up yours and it's all cap and bold, it's probably going to go in file 13. So boop, delete. So just learning how to talk to the legislators. There's going to be times, there's been a couple of times where I would call it, you might even say, a little bit colorful, because you can see that there's pushback. But there are times that I'm very passionate about something, but if I'm not very respectful in the way that I present it, the conversation's not going to go very far. And I do understand that they have the power to make the vote, and I don't. And if I don't use my words correctly or use it in a way that's going to get my point across, then I'm wasting my time and their time. So that's a long answer to your question of just, I do feel like I get a little bit more movement than others, but that's because it's an intentional of the way that I approach people. And it's kind of scary if you look at the atmosphere and things that are going on in the world. Sometimes I'll get on X or some of the social media websites.
Yeah, don't.
Well, and then I have to go, oh my gosh, I thought my day was crazy, but some of these people are just out of control. And it's scary, because I think the powers that be want it to be that way. Because if we're fighting amongst each other and fighting on little things, we're not paying attention to what's really going on, to the people that have the power to make change. And they're doing things behind our back that we don't know, because we're not, or not behind our back, but because we're not focused on it, because we're doing little things. And I'm
gonna add to that too. One of the things that really drives me crazy is I'll get on social media and just see thing after thing about Candace Owens, or about the Epstein files, or about, these, and they're just all dug in on these things. And I want to say, so what's happening under your feet? Because the Epstein files aren't happening at your city council meeting. What's going on there? Because I'm telling you that your city council meeting and your city councilors can affect your life a whole lot more than the Epstein files. What about Candace Owens and all of this nonsense about Erica Kirk or whatever? I mean, if you don't think it's nonsense, fine. But I'm just saying that none of that is going to help you stop a data center under your feet in your city or town, or it's not going to help your school board manage their money more effectively, or it's not going to keep your corporation commissioners from allowing a giant wind park. So people have got to stop and really consider, do you want to get all embroiled in all of this emotional wildness that's going on with social media influencers, or do you want to influence your life directly? And if you do, then you pay attention to what's going on right here, what the stuff is that Kayla's just talking about, what the stuff is that there's another place to follow legislation, Oklahoma Lens, that we've talked about too. And that's where you want to be. You don't want to be on X going, can't believe that Candace Owens said that about Erica Kirk. How does that affect you?
And you have to be very careful, because the system is set up to distract you. Because the way that the way that algorithms are set up, if you like a couple of things, it just drives you to this little cul-de-sac. And what people don't realize is, if you get trapped in the cul-de-sac, you start following different things, and you find out that after a little bit of time, you are on this tiny little street with no other streets. Of course, everybody's going to agree with you, because they want you to see that little world, and you are missing all of the other streets out there. If you look at my social media, you're like, I don't even know where this lady stands. I follow people on both extremes, moderate people, because if I don't see a broad spectrum, I'm going to put myself in tunnel vision, and I'm not going to have a real reality of what's going on. And it's the same thing with the news. If you go into certain businesses, they have a certain news channel on it. That's all they watch. Now, I will tell you that some of them really irritate me, but when I do watch the news, I do a round robin of it, because one, I want to know what they're saying. And if I don't think it's correct, I need to know what they're saying, so I know how to combat it. But at the same time, if I don't know what all is being said out there, then I'm not making sure that I'm checking every single source. So it's really hard to get caught up in it because I want to like certain things and I want to see them. But if I channel myself into this little cul-de-sac, I'm just making it more difficult for me to get accurate information.
Yeah, they want us in our own little bubbles. They want us in our own little echo chambers because that keeps us from being in having real discussions with our neighbors and our friends and
emotionally driven too.
Yes.
And it's one thing that is just seems to be so profound to me is the legislators that are getting up now and just a string of 4-letter words comes out of their mouth. And that actually upsets me in a couple of different ways. I don't want my environment to be that way, but if they are so bent on using those words, to me, that's demeaning to me because you don't think I'm smart enough to take that little hot 4-letter word to get me agitated. I want you to speak in a way that makes it, one, where you're educated about what you're talking about, but two, I want you to talk substance. I don't want you to spout out a 4-letter word so you get 30 seconds on, Fox News or CNN because you spouted this word when nothing that you gave was informational. But it's just, what are we telling to our younger generations? You're not smart enough to know the real in-depth stuff, so I'm just going to give you this little soundbite.
Well, but we've gotten, I think as a public, we've gotten so coarse anymore. I grew up, I was born in 1962. So I went through the 60s, and the early 70s where you didn't go out of the house to go to church without white gloves on.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother went to the grocery store in pearls. The June cleaver kind of a thing. And we've come so far in the other direction. Cleaning house in your best dress in pearls is a little wacky. But then on the other hand, going to Walmart in your pajamas and screaming the F word every other moment is not okay either. So I actually have a friend who's going to come on next month and talk about etiquette.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And just how to present yourself. And I think this was my freshman year in high school, but I think of this memory probably about once a week. And there was a gentleman in our class that spouted off a few colorful words. And the teacher asked him, she said, "Why did you say that?" He said, "That's all I could think of." And her response, it was so profound to me. She goes, "Well, you need to think harder." So if the only thing that you can think of is a 4-letter word, you need to think harder.
Well, and here's another funny thing. So the young lady who wrote the article about the Liberty Oklahoma conference in the Oklahoma, she and I were talking. It was actually kind of funny because when she showed up, she was wearing almost exactly the same thing as I was. It was crazy. And then we started talking and her mom was an English teacher and my mom was an English teacher. It was so weird. But we were talking about the fact that she used the word denote. And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's a great word. Nobody ever uses really great words, it seems like anymore." And that's when she said, well, my mom was an English teacher. And we got to talking about the fact that today, if you use really excellent vocabulary, instead of people thinking, "Wow, that's interesting, I might even have to ask her what that word means," they just think you're stuck up and get mad at you. And that's a bad place to be. That's a bad place to be.
Yes.
We need to be more thoughtful about what comes out of our mouth. I did want to put this up because this is a really good one. Thank you for showing us how to maneuver the Legiscan website. I'll watch this again later so I can go step by step. It's so important to speak up respectfully, of course. And this is another tool to use in learning what we need to know. Our state isn't perfect, but it's what we have. And I, for one, would like to keep it as conservative as possible for my kids and grands. And of course, Julia had to remind us that no one else should have the power to forcefully take and spend someone else's money, which is true. Sorry, but it's true. And then this was kind of a funny one. I explained it. You were talking about it a minute. She carries her little witch in her pocket and then only pulls it out when necessary.
Yes. Well, I
Because-
come from a rural community that their biggest is farming and ranching and oil and gas. So if I need to pull some of those words out, I promise you, I've heard them ever since I was this big. I just choose not to use them unless I need the nuke button.
Well, I mean, but it's true. And I've noticed that myself when I hear people start talking like that, I just kind of want to disconnect because it's too much. I mean, it's too much. We don't need all of that. And then I think it just makes noise. Don't you kind of?
Well, and what is truly hard is the acceptance of it, because
Yes.
it makes a sound bite. So if it makes a sound bite, then it
That's
makes
right.
the news. That if it makes
Yeah.
the news, it goes to social media. And if that becomes acceptable in the norm, we're knowingly letting society get worse without really doing anything about it. And it's so just whenever I do presentations or when I speak to people, and again, I'll go back to my county job, I get some emails that I'm like, really, that was the best way you could put that? And I will respond back on the very first email and I'll say, thank you for your email. You know, I don't choose to communicate in this tone. If you'd like to have a phone call, I'll set up with a phone call. But if emails like this continue, this will be my last email. And I do have people that I don't answer back because I'm like, this is not how I communicate. And if I do, then I'm telling them that this is an acceptable way to communicate, and it's not. And I don't want to see the digression of society, because if I participate in it, then I am accepting it.
You're exactly right. And I like what Julia said. My mama says if they start cussing and calling you names, you won the argument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if that's back to what the teacher says, think harder. If that's all that you have no substance, you don't have any facts, think harder.
100%. Okay, so before we get too long, tell me at least 2 or 3 bills that you're very concerned about. Either you need to get them passed or we need to get them stopped.
So the ones that I'm actually going to shift a tiny bit to the education one. We didn't go to those. There's a House bill, or I'm sorry, excuse me, it's Senate Bill 1778. And this one is just so important. This is the 3rd grade literacy. This is where if the students are not proficient by 3rd grade, then they are held back. They're not allowed to go to 4th grade. And I will tell you, I know that is probably such an emotional decision for parents. But if parents do not acknowledge that their students are not able to read by the 3rd grade, sending them with their buddies, I promise you, is not helping them out. And so I am just such a big proponent of this, because we need educated people out in the world making decisions. And if you're not able to proficiently read by the age of 3rd grade, you are setting yourself up for failure. So that is Senate Bill 1778. And then
who is the author of that bill? I'm just curious.
Oh, that's
Adam Pugh.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So I should have known that. Yeah, Senator Pugh. And then there's another one that deals with schools. And just the reason that I'm going back to schools is education is just such a foundation. And I'm a big proponent for the tech schools. I mean, if we don't have people that go to the tech schools and learn the trades like electricians, welders, plumbers, you still have to be able to read in order to do those jobs. Yeah. And so just being proficient in that. But there's another one, and I see this at work. I will tell you, this is probably terrible to come out of my mouth, but when cell phones go off at church, I just want to turn around and give somebody a dirty look. If that's that disruptive in church, imagine how it is in the classroom. I know that there are several classrooms in school districts that have not allowed that, but there's actually a bill, Senate Bill 1719, that permanently bans the cell phones from classrooms. And I just think that is so important. Believe it or not, we all survived without a cell phone in school. Everybody made it. It was okay. I think that cell phones should be out of the classroom so teachers and students can focus on one another. And my sister is no longer in the education field, but one of the things that she observed is the students that did not have cell phones actually had a relationship with other students, because at lunch they visited, did different things, where the ones that had cell phones, they were just in their own little world. I would love to see cell phones taken out of school so students, one, focus on learning, but learn how to interact. That's where you pick up a lot of your social skills. If you're not able to do that, I mean, not being able to read or not have social skills, that's just not setting you up for success in adult life.
Well, you know, Michael and I have a different perspective on that, Bill.
Okay.
We have a different
Tell me your
perspective on that. So our perspective is that it's a classroom safety issue. And when you go back and you look at some of the videos that have been released of what some teachers do in classrooms, none of that would have been known had a student not been videoing in the classroom.
No videoing, Jenny.
Well, I think videos should be in classrooms anyways, because it does need to be monitored, because it's students and teachers. I think that there should be mandatory videos in the classrooms. The same thing with police officers, and it protects both sides.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that's Katie Smith with V1SUT. She says the exact same thing. She says, if you want to take cell phones out of schools, that's fine, but you need to have a monitoring system somehow. So there needs to be a camera, a CCTV in there.
Well,
is
and
what
I
you
think
need to
that
have
would
then.
protect both parties, because I know that all parents that send their angels to school, they're not always angels once they step out of the car. But the same way for teachers, you know, you may have teachers that are very unruly or very disrespectful for the students, and that needs to be called out as well, because that's not going to help the students learn.
Yeah. And then the other, so there are like 3 points to that. So then the other point is that we all say, and so many of us say this, that schools are local, right? Because we do have a state school board, but every district has a local school board. And the school boards and the schools in each district should have the ability to govern their school the way their district wants it governed. But what we do is we direct everything from the state, and then we give like 2 whole giant books of laws to our regular district schools and say, well, this is what we've done at the top. You figure out how to do it, you know, in your district. Well, that doesn't really work. We're either going to have to say schools are operated by the state or schools are operated by the district. We can't do both. And we have way too many rules, state rules, that are literally crushing some of the smaller district schools. So we need to make a decision. Are we going to run every district school at the state level, or are we going to run them locally like we say that we're going to? So that's another reason I don't like stuff like that, because it's just another mandate from the state level, and the district has the right to make up that choice based on what their parents would like.
Oh, I absolutely agree with this district level. I mean, and you can look at it nationally too. If they pass national sweeping things, or do we want the same thing as New York or California? No. Do the people in the Panhandle want the same thing as Oklahoma City and Tulsa? Probably not. So I think it'd be much more efficient and much more better for the schools if it was done on a district level, because they know what their folks need.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Now, I think the only thing that I would say, and I don't even know that I would say it at the state level either. I mean, we need to have, Julia said, take all the screens out. We need to have screens out of schools, period, because the more research that comes out, the more it shows how detrimental any amount of screens. I mean, 30 minutes worth of screens in a day is detrimental to a child's development. And more information and more research is coming out indicating that, and even showing that in some cases. So I'm with you on that, but the problem is we've got to decide, you know, are we going to do district schools or are we going to do state schools? How are we going to, you know, make that work?
Well,
then the other thing,
vote in Oklahoma, because the state the state school superintendent is on the ballot this year.
Yes. And that's another good point. We definitely have to do our homework there. And then the last point about the cell phones was, I'm not saying they're not a distraction in class, but here's the thing that bugs me. So don't forget, I was a classroom teacher for almost 10 years. if one child is doing something they shouldn't be, you say, give me your phone. If you can't keep your phone in your pocket, give me your phone. Or you have them all put it in a basket, at the beginning. I mean, there are ways to solve the problem inside the classroom, inside the district. We don't need to get the state involved. So I think that's just kind of the bottom line on that. But I think we all agree that we need to have some kind of monitoring in classrooms, closed circuit monitoring in classrooms, if we're not going to let them have cell phones. But again, I go back to say, stop making decisions at the state level and let the district run their schools. So, hey, I wanted to point out two things too, because somebody came. I begged school to hold my grandson back in second grade when we got custody of him. They refused, and he struggled all through school. And I'll tell you that no matter the bill that you pass, they're not going to do it. I mean, we outlawed Common Core, and we had so many schools teaching Common Core. There's not, I mean, the more laws that we put on these people, the more they just blow them off. I mean, I have very little respect for a lot of different school districts, because they've shown, I mean, Edmond's one of them. I mean, and Michael knows that. They just, tell parents to go do whatever. They're going to do it however they want to do it. So, I mean,
well, the state school superintendent election will be very instrumental this year for the fact that a lot of the candidates are talking about the proficiency reading level. So if we get a state, I don't know why these words are hard for me, state school superintendent in there that does focus on that, that will be a huge movement for the state, because if it's going to be one of their top 3-5 priorities, then that is just going to be a dramatic movement for our students and for our state.
It is, but you've got to make them do it, because I think about, I'm with Gracie. So my son and my youngest daughter and my oldest son were in kindergarten together. They started kindergarten together, even though she was a year older. And we put them together, and basically what ended up happening was my son was not ready for kindergarten. So we held him back. The fight we had just to hold him back in kindergarten was ridiculous. We had to fight our own school to make that happen, and basically beg his kindergarten teacher to take him again next year, because the administration was all about just letting him move on. So the problem is, we can make laws, but if we don't make the people follow the laws that we make the laws for, it's just an empty gesture.
100%.
And then Teresa says, holding children back a grade isn't the answer, because I've watched how superintendents, teachers, and counselors use holding back children to make money. Manipulation, I think, is what she's trying to say. Manipulation of the system was the game. I personally was one of the few parents that researched the system in my son's situation to have a different understanding. So that's interesting. So, I don't know. Schools are hard anymore. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, and for us, we just, all of our kids, we just started them a year later. All of them. So I've got 5 kids. All my kids are 18-year-old seniors. They're graduating. They're 18 years old when they graduate.
So my mother was a teacher. She taught school for 38 years, in the same way with my sisters and I. I was the second oldest person in my class, but I felt like at the end, I could see that I had a different maturity level than others.
Yeah.
But that's because when my mom started me in school.
Yeah.
Well, so, and just to answer your question, Jenny, I'm sorry. There are a couple of insurance bills that are really important, and they have to deal with the filing of the state, how the carriers file with the state, how and when it's approved. If there's going to be where they limit the amount of premium that they can take, and then the ones that deal with the information that is collected in order to provide the quote. So those are the bills that I'm specifically tracking that I think are going to make it all the way to the end to have a vote on the floor.
So I wondered about that, because remember the last time you were on, you were talking about the fact that our state could approve increases, but then they haven't. And that's part of the reason why our insurance premiums have gone up so much.
So there's no specific law that caps the amount, and there's no specific law that says the insurance commissioner has to approve the rates. So we're a use and file state. So if an insurance provider comes in and goes, well, we've had some significant losses, we need to take 100% rate increase, they can take 100% rate increase. So that's why the rate increases are all over the board. And the theory behind it is that the market will weed some of those carriers out because people will just cancel with those carriers and go with somewhere else. Yeah. But the legislation looks at changing the way that it's filed. So it has to go through and have certain actuarial information that proves that they need the state increase, and it has to be approved by the Department of Insurance before it's approved to be passed on to the consumer.
Well, I mean, I hate to say this, but do you not think that just makes some sense?
You know, I'm torn on this because the state of California and Florida have both experimented with this, and California took it to the extreme where they had, you know, probably, and I don't know the exact number, and I'm just going to say they had 100 carriers where at some parts of the state, because of all the restrictions they put on, consumers were limited to 2 carriers. And that was in the news a few years ago because people couldn't find insurance because their options were to pay $10,000 or you didn't have any other carrier options. So we don't want to take it to the extreme where it's you only have certain carriers in here that are willing to take the rate, but we don't want the rates to be even higher. But at the same time, I can look at it whereas is if everybody gets together behind the scenes and go, if you take 50, I'll take 50, you take 50, I'll take. So you want to make sure that that's a good balance because we want the free market to be able to take control and make sure that it's competitive because the companies are competing for business. But at the same time, it's hard for a consumer to go, I pay this much. Now it's 30% increase. The year before it was 20%. I mean, that's trying on your budget. That's trying on your patience. And we are the most expensive state to do business in because we truly have, we have everything but volcanoes. So if you think about it from a business perspective, it's hard to insure. We get extreme cold, extreme hot. We actually have earthquakes. Yeah. So we have a lot that other states.
And now you cursed us. We're going to have a volcano somewhere because you said we didn't.
Yes. But it is a little bit hard from a business perspective. Yeah. And the way that the carriers look at it is if they write nationwide, they technically have 50 different companies. So they want Oklahoma to be profitable. Where we want to look at it like a consumer, I look at our friends in Arizona. If you deal with a breath of wind and a lot of sun. Well, if you're making a lot of profits in Arizona, let them be our buddy and let's kind of balance out the 2 states, you know, use a little bit of their profits to help offset some of our losses. Now, I don't run a big insurance company. That's just my consumer point of view, but you have to be able to balance that. And sometimes, you know, as a consumer of insurance, it's extremely frustrating for me because if an insurance company is very profitable in 10 other states, well, hey, can you kind of give us some of that profit so you can lower our rates, even though that sometimes you do operate at a loss here? Because it is a very expensive to do business in Oklahoma just because of our weather.
So I was giggling because of the comments. So Julia said what I said. And I think you know this person. No tsunamis either. So now we're screwed. Now we're gonna.
So everybody needs to add an additional 30 seconds to their prayers tonight to cancel anything that I have set out today.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Well, I do think, you know, I don't know how this actually happened, but all of my insurance comes due in March. Yes. Don't know how that happened. I would like to move that off somehow, but it happened. And my insurance agent called me the other day and she said, oh, well, I've got some bad news about your home insurance. And I'm like, okay. And it wasn't as bad as the last year's bad news about my home insurance, but it's still, you know, we were able to change to another insurance company that wasn't going to go up as much as the insurance company I was in. But I just hate the whole, now I have to change because I have to go to this one because this one's raised their rate. You know what I'm saying? It just feels like I'm constantly playing shell game with insurance companies.
It is. It's difficult on both sides. It's difficult for the consumer and it's difficult for the agent because it puts a lot more workload on our plate. But it used to be when I first started in insurance, it was like a badge. I've been with this company for 10 years and you would actually receive loyalty bonuses, loyalty discounts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say on average, probably consumers change every 3 years because you get with a carrier and it increases and increases. And carriers are all cyclical because it's about a 10-year cycle. But what happens is they'll come in and they'll introduce a product. They're really good in the market. They've made some really good products. Or some really good profits. So they'll introduce a new product. Well, it's very attractive and they're trying to get a certain percentage of the market. So their rates are really good. Well, they get their bucket filled up to where they want it. And they're like, okay, we need to sustain here. Well, how do you sustain? You tell people no, thank you without saying no thank you by increasing the rates. And so if you stay with the company for a while, it increases and increases. Well, then it makes you shop. Well, then you're trying to find the company that's in the cycle where they're just introducing their new product, where they're looking to bring on new business. And so that you change probably about every 3 years, where in the past, again, it was a badge of honor to say, I've been with this company for several years. They've been great to me. My premiums have stayed consistent. I get additional discounts for being a loyal customer. That's just not how it is anymore.
I want to go back there.
Me too. Yes. I will tell you that I work in an industry that I don't think I have ever received a call that, Kayla, how is your day going? I just wanted to check in. That does not happen. Does not happen. They're calling me. I need help.
I know. And that's tough for you too. I mean, as an agent, because I know my agent has said the same thing. I've got to make some phone calls today that I don't want to make. It's not any fun for you guys either.
And it's hard to balance because we've also become a society that, and this is hard to say, but it's kind of true. We're becoming less and less responsible. We want the responsibility for everything to be on someone else. So if you want your insurance to be all encompassing, it's going to be in price to be all encompassing. If you want everything covered, it's going to be priced that way. We need to go and make the policies and have the expectation from the consumer that your policy is not a maintenance policy. It is a true catastrophic policy. If I have a $20,000 or $30,000 loss, I need you to step in and make me whole because that would financially devastate me. Yeah. What the problem is you have a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 claim, and while it's very unsettling and it could put a little bit of a financial crutch on you, that's the responsibility of being a homeowner and being a good steward. Or a good steward of your home. But if people continue to turn in these little claims, then it's going to be priced that way. But then you have to step back a little bit further and just look at the general in society. They want you to finance things. They want you to be in debt. They want you to be enslaved by somebody else. So we've kind of driven ourselves down the path without realizing it. And we get to the end of the street and go, oh, crap, look where I am. So it's kind of a vicious cycle that we've unknowingly put ourselves in.
That's actually excellent. I couldn't have said that better myself. And I think we need to cut that segment and put it out and let people really think on that, because I just think you're 100% correct. We should be taking a little bit out of our checks every month and putting them in a savings account in case we need a new roof, in case we need, we have this or that or the other, thing come up. And you put some of that back, and then you've got that to pay for. You don't just buy insurance and say, well, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm just going to charge the insurance. I'll just make a claim.
Yes.
Excellent point. Okay. So is there anything else before we get off of here, since we're at 1:30? Is there anything that you can think of that is like that you're...
If anybody has any questions on being able to track bills or where to find information, let me double check the state website. That floors me that's off. I will find out some information with that. But just don't be afraid to look up the information and don't get overwhelmed. I want people to be involved because they're passionate, but I don't want you to pull up something. There's just so much information. I don't even know where to start. You don't have to know everything. Just get involved in the few things that you're passionate about.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Kayla, thank you so much for being on with us, because we learn so much every time you're on. It's just, you're a blessing. So thank you again for being on, and thank you for being with us. And please check up with us. I mean, send me some notes on some of these bills and where they're going, and, let us see if we, can put out information on them, because some of them are so important.
Oh, I would be happy to. It's good visiting with y'all.
Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye. She really does such a great job. It's just,
Kayla's
just
a
can't get
workhorse.
it. She is. I mean,
Man, she does a
honestly,
lot of stuff.
oh my goodness, that woman, she's just an amazing person, literally. But I definitely think we've got to keep up with those bills. And she's so knowledgeable on insurance. Golly, every time we talk to her, I feel like at least I have some kind of clue, what's going on. So I'm so grateful to her. Do you have anything today, Michael? Money,
No.
anything that's popping, war, anything that's popping in your head?
No, I mean, it's it's just never ending cycle. I mean, the money, we've talked about it before. We did a whole podcast on it. The fake money that we print out of thin air is what enables all this war in the first place. If you had to dish up your gold and silver and your actual assets, you'd never fund war and all these things the way that they're funded now. So,
yeah. Well, we're going to have Lisa Janlu on. She's going to be on next Friday. And I thought, she's, her family's Persian, and she's also running for labor commissioner. And I just thought, gosh, it would be so interesting to have her take, on what's going on in the Middle East, because there are so many Persians that I've seen on social media that are just, they're jumping down and so happy in the streets. And David told me something that I was just shocked about the other day. He was reading something, and they said that in Iran, 80-something% of the people are just Persian. They're not Islamic.
Yeah.
80% of the people. So can you imagine what it's like to live under a regime where you don't even have that religion?
Yeah. Well, and
that's tough.
The thing about it, Jenny, is you go backwards in time. Who installed those regimes, and why did they install those regimes? That was U.S. government intelligence, British intelligence. They installed the Shah, then they overthrew the Shah. That's public knowledge. They did that on purpose because you rewind back in time. You go back to Iran, places like that, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Those girls were wearing bikinis. They were just like us. They were free. They could do that stuff. We installed those things. I say we. It was
Republicans.
Big money, big corporations. The leaders of those countries at that time said, hey, yeah, we got all this oil. Sure, you guys came in, found it, did all this stuff, but we want to keep some of that for our own people. We want to keep some of that money. So, they got rid of it. They said, no, we're not doing that. And they just, but what happens? You create that entire terrorist state. So what have we been doing? We've been fighting all these terrorists that have been funded under the table all these years. It's just a perpetual cycle. I literally can't stand it.
Yep. It's a frustration, for 100% sure. Do you see anything coming in the board?
The board. Well, we'll see. I think it's a great time to buy, gold and silver and assets. They're down a little bit. Silver, especially, always. The first time I started talking about silver, it was $14 on this show. I still said you should buy it at 30 and 60. And, it was up. We know it was up to, 120, 118 not that long ago. It's come back down. It's in the 80s. It's in the 80s right now.
That's still way more than it has been in.
Oh, yeah.
In my
it's been suppressed for a long time, but I think silver, Jenny, is going to be multiple hundreds of dollars in the future here.
Well, with all the implications, with all the applications, the industrial applications for silver. Yeah.
So, it's still a great deal. So, I hope that I sure don't want to see troops on the ground. I mean, I've got boys that are military age. I do not want to see troops on the ground. I don't want to think about my own kids, being in that situation, let alone anybody's kids being in that situation.
Yeah, and we've already lost 4 Americans. So, and they were young people.
Yeah.
So it's just a tragedy, and I don't think anybody wants to see that. So at any rate, so on Friday we have, I don't know if you remember this, but last year we were going to have an organization called Second Chance on, and we were just not able to catch up with them again. And this Friday, we're going to have this organization called Second Chance on, and they are an organization that they work with the prison community.
Yeah.
And they help teach prisoners basically about civic engagement. And felons can't vote. I mean, once you become a felon, we take your voting rights away, which, I don't know what to think about that. I think there might be some wiggle room there, frankly, but we take their voting rights away. But that doesn't mean that their family still doesn't need to be civically engaged, and, that they themselves don't need to be civically engaged. So that's what Second Chance does. And I think it's I think it'll be a really interesting conversation to have. So I just ask everybody to tune in on Friday. It should be a really interesting podcast.
Yeah.
Just some real interesting conversations that I don't think we normally have. It was kind of like having Chris Stevens from Tulsa. He does all the work in the homeless community, and that was such an enlightening thing. But we just don't talk about that very much. So I think this is going to be a very similar conversation on Friday.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, like Kayla mentioned, I mean, we're so distracted in life with all this stuff. I mean, that's just another area that you are never exposed to that area unless you're specifically looking for it.
No. And, this does affect all of our communities, and it affects the state. And so it is important. I mean, it's an important topic, and I'm excited about talking with them about it on Friday. So that's where we're going to be on Friday. Anything else before we get off of here today?
Yeah. Julia made a comment. Julia, call me. I'll tell you where I buy, what I do. I'll give you the whole rundown.
Well, Julia asked if you get hard assets of silver, and the answer to that is yes.
Yeah. You want to have those items, unless you're buying them through retirement account or IRA or something like that. You want to have those items in your custody in some capacity. If it's not in your custody, then it's not yours. I mean, just think about it like that. If someone else has them and the whole thing craters, it's not yours. They have those. They're not just going to give them to you. That's how it is.
And there are still companies that are selling paper silver. So
yeah, that's bad. That's bad news. I would not buy any derivative. I mean, we could go into a 30-minute deal into SLV, which is a silver derivative, and that's the main one everybody buys. I would not buy that in any capacity. Not have it in your portfolio, not buy it.
This is what we need.
Yeah.
Put it right here.
Yeah. Remember, I held up those bags of silver. Jenny, remember that? I held up those bags of silver on the podcast.
We're not doing that anymore, by the way. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much it for today. And we just thank Kayla Blount for being on and all of the work she does. She's just so great. And it's just so nice to have her on. And then we'll see you again on Friday morning at 9 a.m. with Second Chance Movement. So we'll see you then. And thank you, Michael. Good to see you again.
Yes,
thank you, everybody, for being on. And we'll see you again Friday morning at 9.